Alright, in this video we are going to be discussing and translating the lines of the Aeneid, Book 6, 788 to 800. And it's in these lines in which, obviously, as a sort of a pep talk, as it were, Anchises, Aeneas' father, is going to be showing to him all the great Romans and the civilization that are going to come to be. Remember, in the concept of the underworld as presented by Virgil, that you have not only people who have died in the underworld, but also those that have yet then to live. And so it is at line 788 that we then pick it up. So of course, remember, the person speaking is Anchises, the father of Aeneas. Now, Flecte, bend your twin sights, really it's like bend your eyes, to here. So it's really, you can see him gesturing over here, these guys, gesturing over here, these guys. And aspice, take a look upon, check out this race and your Romans, this race which is your Romans. This is why it's all going to be worth it. This is the civilization that is going to be one day. Here, and so you can imagine him gesturing here, Caesar, and the whole or all the offspring of Iulus, and that offspring, ventura, a future active participle, about to come sub axum magnum, under the great zenith, under the great axis of the sky, of the heaven. And so therefore he is pointing out, like, look at this awesome guy, Caesar, and look at all of these offsprings of Iulus, which of course Julius Caesar can claim his ancestry from Iulus due to obviously the similarity in the name. Here is the man, this is the guy, whom, there we have it, rather often, more often, you hear to be sent forth to you. This is the chosen one, Augustus Caesar. Now, boys and girls, it is at this point we can try and think about in terms of what the Aeneid is and what the Aeneid is doing. Remember that it is Augustus who commissions Virgil to write the Aeneid, and many people can read into, especially sections like this, of the Aeneid being propaganda. Some people suggest maybe even the fact that it was so much propaganda on behalf of Augustus and his, quote, new regime, that's why Virgil requested that it be burned upon his deathbed. The fact is, we just don't know why he has made such a request. But nevertheless, it is quite clear that it is a work in which Aeneas is seen as a manifestation of Augustus, and certainly a glorification of Augustus and his, for lack of a better term, new regime in Rome, as it were. Augustus Caesar, a race or a offspring of the god. And so again, Julius Caesar, his adoptive father, was indeed deified, experienced an apotheosis, and so therefore Augustus himself, once he indeed is that adopted son, can claim divinity as his parentage. He condet. Remember, every single time you ever see a long E, which definitely that is, you ask the question, this verb condo condere, third conjugation, thus causing this E to imply a future. He will establish a golden age. A cyclum is an age or an era. Who, and this of course refers to Augustus, as it were, and then your verb of that subject is going to be proferet. Now remember, fero fere, just like wolo wele and nolo nole, are verbs that very much want to act like third conjugation when it comes to imperfect and future, and so it is future as well. Who will bring forth an empire through the fields, having been ruled in Latium, once upon a time by Saturn. You can have, especially in poetry, a dative of agent even when the passive expression is not a future passive periphrastic. And so that is what we have here, having been ruled one day by Saturn. Now remember that Saturn did rule in the Golden Age, and it was only in the subsequent ages after Saturn, when you have the establishment of Zeus/Jupiter, that in longer moves into the Silver Age for men, and then of course the Bronze Age, and then finally the Iron Age, in a somewhat descent of human character, as it were, with the behavior of humans particularly. Nevertheless, he, Augustus Caesar, who will bring forth an empire above both the Garamantians and the Indians. And so it is going to really be emphasized the great extent of this empire and of how huge it is, reified or iterated starting after the colon. And so its land, referring to the land of the empire, lies, and here we made it as a present tense because it's yakeo yakere, a second conjugation, outside the stars. And so this is indicating the location or the literal size, the physicality of the empire outside of the stars, even beyond of where the stars would shine. And then it is repeated outside the roads of year and of sun, emphasizing here the actual physical size, here emphasizing the temporal size, an empire of all time. Nevertheless, we continue on. Ubi, where heaven-bearing Atlas hurls the axis, the zenith, on his shoulder, that axis or zenith suited for burning stars. And so, in other words, everything that is under the axis of the sky, that is the Roman Empire, that is not bounded by location, nor is it bounded by time temporally. We finish up in these last few lines. Into the arrival of this guy, again referring to Augustus. His arrival, his coming to power, is a new era, the dawning of a new age. Again, in a sense of this work glorifying his new regime, glorifying and legitimizing his new regime and the new way of ruling that is going to obviously be different than what it had been previous to him with the res publica. Nevertheless, now already into or at the arrival of this guy, the Caspian kingdoms, they shudder with the responses of the gods. In other words, it is like the idea of the divine right of kings. The gods approve of Augustus, approve of this new regime, approve of the way that obviously he has now established the empire. And the Maeotian land, and the scared mouths of the seven-twinned Nile, indicating the various branches of the Nile at the delta, they are freaking out. They are disturbing. They are obviously trembling due to the fact that now there is, for all of the other kingdoms on the earth, especially around the Roman Empire, they have to deal with this new force. And so by showing to Aeneas the greatness that will be with Augustus particularly, it is then emboldening him and encouraging him that all of this hardship that Aeneas is going through will one day be worth it, because it is being presented that the high point of Roman civilization is with the arrival of Augustus, the very man who obviously commissioned that it be written to begin with by Virgil. So, lat in, now again, lat out. Keep studying, and good luck.